Hi, this is Bobby. Thank you for inviting me to attend your conference. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but thank you for inviting me to speak on this very important topic. You know, I think that the threat of radical Islamic terrorism is a huge threat not only for America, but for our allies in the West as well. Indeed, I gave a speech about this just a few weeks ago in London. And there I said some things that got the left mad. The reality is, if you have the courage to stand up and talk about these topics, you'll be called a racist, or they'll say that you just must be anti-Muslim. Neither of those is obviously true. However, there are some hard truths we've got to face. The reality is we do face a grave and dangerous threat in the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. It's amazing to me that for some reason our president doesn't like to use those words. The reality is this: Islam has got a problem. Individual leaders in the Muslim community have a responsibility. It's not enough for them to condemn just in general acts of violence. Rather, they've got to condemn the individuals that are perpetrating these acts of violence. It's important for these leaders to stand up and say, these individuals, they're not going to enjoy a reward in the afterlife. Rather, these fools are going straight to hell. These aren't martyrs. They're not using honorable military tactics. Instead, they're attacking innocent women, men, and children. They're shooting individuals, teenagers, for watching soccer. They killed over 100 students in Pakistan for going to school. They killed cartoonists because they didn't like their editorial content. These are barbaric idiots who are they burned a Jordanian pilot alive. They've committed atrocities all over. And the reality is that for some reason the left wants to pretend like this problem's not as serious as it is. And when you start saying things like Islam has a problem and individual Muslim leaders have got to condemn these individuals, they want to act like this was just some kind of small conflict. The reality is this: I hope and believe the majority of Muslims don't share the beliefs, the ideology of these radical murdering terrorists. But individual Muslim leaders have a responsibility to condemn the individuals that are perpetrating these acts. But they're not the only ones with a responsibility. Here in the West, we have a responsibility as well. We have a responsibility to insist on assimilation and integration for those who want to come and live in our societies. Now, that used to be non-controversial. I remember a time when we talked about the melting pot, we talked about America being the great melting pot. It used to be just common sense to say that if people wanted to come to America, they should want to be Americans. Unfortunately, many of the politically correct set, they don't believe that anymore. Now we've got folks that say, well, we should be the salad bowl, that somehow it is culturally arrogant. It is a colonial mindset to tell people that want to come here they should have to integrate and assimilate. You know, the great thing about America is we believe in the freedom of self-determination and religious liberty, the freedom of speech. We're a majority Christian country, but we don't discriminate against those with different beliefs. We simply say that you shouldn't use the freedoms we give you to undermine those very freedoms in the first place. By the way, I'm also against this whole idea of hyphenated Americans. I think we need to stop calling ourselves Indian Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans. We're all just Americans. We need to stop dividing ourselves. We need to start insisting on English as the official language. We need to teach in our schools this idea of American exceptionalism. In other words, we need to do what used to be common sense in our country. Insist that those that want to come to America be Americans. It is a great strength of our country, but if we don't do this, all we have to do is look to Europe to see what could happen here in America. You have folks there that have been second, third generation that don't consider themselves integrated, assimilated. And that's a very, very dangerous thing. Now, I'll close with this. I'm optimistic, I'm confident that America can beat any external threat. We've done it throughout our entire history and we'll do it again, but we've got to remember our heritage, our tradition, our values. We've got to remember what has made this country so great and strong in the first place. And in part, our founding fathers got American exceptionalism right by understanding the purpose of our limited government wasn't to create but to secure our God-given rights. And it's only common sense that we insist on those that want to come into our country, respect and share our freedoms, respect and don't undermine those rights or freedoms, not only for themselves, but for everybody else. And I just wish and I hope that our president would finally understand the real threat that radical Islamic terrorism poses not only to America, but to our allies and our interests all over this world. Thank you for organizing this conference. Thank you for coming together to talk about the threat we face, but thank you most importantly for having the courage to stand up to the left when they denounce you for saying commonsensical things that need to be said in these dangerous times. Thank you.